Welcome back to Jacoby Rising. In today's video, this is the video documentary series for episode 9, Pulse of Reign Series 3. So episode 9 is a very important episode because it's the first episode in the show where I officially start my revisions of the storyline. I mentioned in a prior update that I was going to rewrite one specific plot point that affects episode 9 and beyond, and this is that episode. So episode 9 originally was called Fade Out, and then I changed it to Pulse. Episode 9 represented a cooldown within the show after the fight in episode 8 and the beginning of episode 9, and then the show quickly starts cooling down before it starts ramping up towards the later episodes again. I changed it to the word Pulse because throughout episode 9 there's so many pulses for various characters. There's pulses for Daryl with his ability and how Dark Daryl and the Professor are here with Daryl, 3 versions of Daryl. There's a lot of pulse with Jennifer and her finding out that Chloe passes away. There's a massive pulse with Tom and discovering a lot of his darkness, his skeletons in the closet. And obviously the biggest one is the revelation of what happens to Jver, and that sends massive ramifications for Mort as a character, Leo, James, and Travis as well. So 9 is a pivotal episode. Lots of pulsing, lots of radiating feelings among many characters, and episode 9 is just where things really start to unfold. This episode is also the first episode that's over 30 minutes long. So my scripts are typically 30 pages long, but because I added so many flashback scenes to episode 9, the runtime grew by 10 minutes. So this is probably going to be the longest episode in the show at 41 minutes or so. So that's crazy, but I do think the flashbacks add a lot to the scene that I'll break down shortly. The first thing I want to talk about is actually a revision scene. So the very first scene in episode 9 shows Tom in the past with Ace on a mission.
You'll be awake before you know it.
And I didn't put any title because this is actually not a real scene. This is Tom hallucinating while he's in battle where the Professor's fighting Frank and everyone else. So Tom is hallucinating and he envisions Ace and him in combat, and then Ace tells him to wake up. Tom wakes up, boom, he's back in reality. So in episode 9 and beyond, but also even episode 8, I showcased glimpses and hints of Tom having a much more complex backstory, and he has a lot of demons, a lot of skeletons that are gonna be revealed soon. And in episode 8, we see Aaron and Richard find Tom talking to himself, and that was the first major red flag of Tom's past. And obviously in episode 2, we see a little bit of that, but then it's referenced a lot in this episode where all these things are coming together. So in this scene, we see Tom hallucinate. So now we've seen Tom talk to his dead parents. We've seen Tom hallucinate things that are not really happening. We really get to understand that Tom is going through a lot right now. Chloe's death triggered a lot of emotions that kind of came up that were buried for a long time. And Tom is now going through a lot of PTSD, a lot of post-traumatic stress, a lot of depression, anxiety. Tom's just going through a lot right now. And we get to see what he goes through. Because again, Tom comes off as this very mellow, very relaxed person, but he's actually probably the most screwed up character on the show. So the beginning scene just is like a glimpse, another glimpse into wow, Tom is really screwed up. Here's why. So that is a really cool scene. It was also really awesome to get Maddie James back into the show, who voices Ace. I always love having him return as Ace and just give some more breathtaking Ace scenes. I know this is actually not really Ace because Ace died in episode 2, but it's still nice to have him come back and do some more voice acting lines.
Wake up!
The next scene is the Professor has returned to the show. So he was obviously introduced at the end of episode 8, and now in episode 9 we get to see him go full out attack and destroy.
Warthog!
He's still a menace to deal with. And we see him fight Frank, fight Leo. He breaks through Leo's grip.
Impossible! Stay out of my fights!
The Professor, again, he represents craziness. He's a wild card, so he's not predictable. And for him to overcome Leo, for him to still be a torment to Dark Daryl, and to still be very powerful against Frank is unexpected, but also not surprising.
What are you waiting for? Run away! No, you don't! Whoa.
Frank is at his limit. He is literally about to pass out, but he has to do as much as he can to defend his friends. Getting the professor to come back after such a long time, getting Tyler Moore to voice act the professor again was so amazing.
Ted, get out of there!
It really is just great to see this character that was so prevalent in Series 2 at a time in the show where the whole direction was completely different than what it is now, and to stick that wild card of a character into the dramatic drama that is Series 3, I love it because it still works. The professor is such a powerhouse of a character.
I'm not falling for that again!
And Tyler brings so much performance to his character that just having the professor back in general and just having Tyler come back to some extent to voice act is just so great.
Goodbye, Ted!
Professor!
Huh? You.
You're the reason my life has been upside down because of your actions.
We have Daryl and we have the professor meet for the first time. And that's a great moment for Daryl's character because this is someone that originally started the problem. Dark Daryl just exacerbated it.
You should be thanking me, Daryl. I did what you couldn't. I stepped up and took revenge on these cars.
But the professor is responsible for all this chaos, and for Daryl to stand up to him and to even fight him for that brief period of time. Massive development for his character. Daryl's just starting to become more noticed and more dominant, more confident.
But it will take more than that to keep me down!
Are you fucking kidding me? How many more Daryls are there?
So we have Tyler Moore as the professor, we have Steve Cross as Dark Daryl, and then we have Topher to voice act Daryl.
Professor, I'm real darkness. You're nothing compared to me.
Bold, but foolish.
So it's cool to have 3 different voices voicing the same relatively character, and it's just cool to have like so much going on for that one individual. We then discovered that Folger, which is the Lightning Imperium, controls Dark Daryl, the Professor, and Daryl. So Daryl is the regular person, Folger is the Imperium that gave life to the Professor, gave life to Dark Daryl. Hello?
What? Lyle!
The hospital called. Jver's in critical condition.
Mort gets a call from the hospital that they need to go see Jver immediately. He's in critical condition. There's been a new development in his recovery. And that scene right there is also another revision that was not originally in the original scripts. So Leo and his team leave. 3 versions of Daryl at the same time. The Imperium doesn't know which one to focus on, so it starts glitching out. This causes the Professor and Dark Daryl to leave and regroup.
But I'll be back.
You've been warned!
This is going to be a theme going forward where Daryl has to battle himself, gain control of himself, but also battle 2 other entities. And those entities have their own personal goals.
Daryl? You were right. Sorry for not believing you.
Ted realizes, wow, the Professor was the one that was crazy, obviously, and Daryl was right the entire time.
Thanks, Ted. We can talk about that later. Right now, we need to move.
Right.
And they have a very quick moment where Ted acknowledges his wrongdoings, but obviously they have to get out of there. So that's a scene that will be further explored later.
Mort! Wait!
The next scene is Jver's death. So this is the plot line that I decided to add to episode 9. So originally Jver does not die actually. He actually wakes up in episode 14. And I'm saying this because none of this really matters anymore because the plans have changed. So originally Jver survives, he wakes up from a coma, and Mort has a scene with him, and I just wasn't satisfied with how that scene played out. I thought it was very rushed because Series 3's pacing overall is extremely tight. So I just kind of ran out of room when it came to that scene where Jver and Mort reunite, and then I thought about it a lot, and I was like, what if I just decide to kill off Jver And what does that do for the story? But episode 9 also has the scene at the end where Mort tries to kill himself. So I just thought having Jver die would heighten that scene. It would heighten Mort's trauma, Mort's tragedy. And Series 3 is not prone to killing off characters. We've already had Ace die, Emma die, Chloe die. What's another character that's basically already dead? I just thought Jver had more of a purpose in death, kind of like how Chloe had more of a purpose in death for Tom. Jver has that for Mort.
Did they move him? Is he better?
I'm sorry, sir.
No. No, no. No, no, no. No way! You're fucking with me!
We have this amazing scene by Kevin, who voices Mort, and we just have Mort like freaking out, losing his mind.
Funeral arrangements can be arranged. We just need some signatures.
No! This wasn't supposed to happen! Fuck! Fuck!
I think these are scenes in the show that really stand out to me. There's no action, it's just emotion. And to hear Mort break down knowing that he indirectly killed his best friend.
Where the fuck is Jver? He's here somewhere. You're lying to me!
Hold him down!
Where is he?
It's just shattering, and to have Tori, who voices Leo and Tom, Leo just break down.
No!
We need backup!
Just break down like, wow, his whole team is just falling apart. Mort's technically a murderer, you know? Like, Mort murdered his friend accidentally, and it's such a devastating scene, devastating moment. Because up until this point, Jver was under the assumption that he was going to get better. And originally, in the original scripts of Series 3, Jver does wake up, he does survive. But now that he doesn't survive, I think it makes it all the more tragic. Because again, episodes 1 through 8 were written in a point where Jver is intended to wake up. And then episode 9 and beyond, now we have Jver just suddenly pass away. That's also very relatable because sometimes you come across people in your lives and they only stay around for a short period of time. And it's tragic, it sucks, it's awful, but it's life. And life is not discriminatory. You know, life treats everyone equally. And to have Jver die, it's really devastating. And it's also explained later on that every time Leo got knocked out, opened up Jver's wounds. You know, Jver got shot to such an extent that it takes time for a gunshot wound to heal. And Leo was freezing over his wounds to keep him from bleeding out. But every time Leo got knocked out by the professor, by Dark Daryl, he lost control of that. He was unconscious to the point where his powers weren't as effective as they are when he's conscious and awake, and Jver just bleeds out, you know, and passes away. And it happens off screen too, which is even worse. It's like, not only did your friend die, but he died when you weren't even here to say goodbye. So overall, just a devastating scene. It just adds more to the dramaticness that is the show of Series 3. And it just adds another layer of destruction, devastation that leads to the last scene in the show where Mort tries to kill himself. But yeah, Jver's death, not originally planned, but I do think it makes the show better, and I look forward to sharing more of those endeavors.
Mind if I join? I can't sleep. Still shaken up from what happened.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
The next scene is a very long talking scene between Nikki, Aaron, and Tom, and it mostly serves as a glimpse into Tom's darkness that is foreshadowed in episode 8 and slightly foreshadowed in episode 2. So episode 9, like I said, is a much longer episode because there's so many flashbacks from episode 2 and other episodes, and it just goes to show Tom's in a very dark state of mind. His cool and collective nature doesn't come off as collective, it just comes off as sadness. And he's just been so traumatized that he's calm now. But even when he gets ramped up, it takes a lot for him to lose his mind, kind of like what happened with Series 2 with Tom. There's a plot line in Series 1 that I actually retconned because I was never a fan of it. So in Series 1, I introduced the plot line where his parents were alive, and they were just obsessed with their death for whatever reason. They just kind of enjoyed looking beyond life.
My parents have been bugging me to look for their tombstones for when they die. For some reason, they find it interesting planning out their future after passing. It intrigues them, I guess.
And they had Tom get tombstones for themselves that he could prepare for their demise, and really obscured, weird plot line. Looking back on it, not great. As the only writer for Series 3, I wanted to fix that. And it's explained that Tom's parents were actually dead the entire time, and episode 8 shows him talking to them, right? Like, metaphorically talking to them. This was just a way for me to retcon that stupid plot line that I did not like in Series 1, and then have it and twist that plot line to show like, okay, Tom has problems, Tom has a lot of darkness, Tom talks to his parents, he knows they're not there, but it just helps him cope with the trauma of losing them. And obviously Ace was a traumatic moment, Chloe was a traumatic moment, so these moments in Tom's life are so traumatic that they trigger certain elements of his life that are shrouded in darkness, which are hallucinations, thinking about the past, and just really showing that Tom is actually just kind of fucked up. You know, Tom is fucked up. Tom's a veteran. Tom has PTSD, Tom has depression, Tom has anxiety to some extent, right? Like, it's just Tom, it's just a lot of trauma there, and everyone deals with trauma differently, and this is how Tom deals with his trauma. And it was just a really eye-opening scene to just kind of look back on the whole series and look at episode 2, episode 5, episode 6 with Tom. I think the flashbacks make the scene a lot better. I know they add more time to the episode because we are essentially just re-watching the same thing, but with added context of Tom talking. And I just think it makes the scene look really good, and I love it. And this is the first time in the show where I start playing with flashbacks. I forget up until this point if I had many flashbacks or not.
Why did you lie about your parents?
When I'm by myself, I talk to them. Helps me cope. Makes me feel less alone. I know my parents and Ace aren't coming back. I know I have problems. I just thought I was better off than I am.
This is a great scene for Tom. We get to kind of see a bit of his humanity. I get to retcon that one plot line from Series 1. We get a little bit of Aaron as well with Emma and how he's dealing with Emma's death, and we get to see two characters go through a similar situation where they lost someone that they cared about, or just someone that was connected to them.
There's no real way to deal with that. It's only been a few hours, but it still doesn't feel real.
And we just see how Tom deals with it completely differently, and we see how Aaron deals with it completely differently. So Tom is more of an example of someone that's had trauma for a longer period of time, so that's why he's developed these hallucinations and just how he copes with it over time. Aaron, this just happened to him, so he's at the very beginning stages of his grief and his guilt of surviving. Tom went through in the past, right after Ace died, what Aaron's going through right now with Emma's recent death. So it's just cool to see those parallels play out and see how they interact with trauma and how it just affects them.
Then it's settled. Once the university relaxes a bit, we can head there and see if we can get into space and finally stop the rain.
The next scene, we have a plan to stop the rain. This is cool because we are getting to the end of the show. I mean, Series 3 has been around for 9 episodes. There's 15 episodes in total. And very fast, the show's going to ramp up to a finale. And these are the beginning steps of, let's go stop this rain. We have to stop Leal.
He probably uses his Imperium frigates to control the rain and the teleporter Frank made in the first place to distribute it.
You think his Imperium is the reason why it started raining in the first place?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's revealed in episode 9 why it's actually raining. So it's revealed that Leal, to no surprise, is controlling the weather. His ability lets him freeze things, but he can also melt things with his power, because he can manipulate ice, and he can make ice frozen, which is ice, or he can make it loose and not frozen, which is water, and he's able to make it rain all the time. And because of Frank's teleporter, he's able to distribute that rain globally. Easier. It's just less taxing for him because he could totally just let it rain everywhere, but that's very taxing on his body. So the teleporters definitely add a bit of benefit to that. So Leal is the reason why it's raining, and Leal is the key to stopping the rain. And so is his Imperium Frigus, which is the Imperium of Ice.
What do you mean Chloe's dead?
Jen, please calm down.
In this scene, we also get the reveal that Jennifer finds out that Chloe passed away. She killed herself in front of Tom. Very traumatic scene. You could say it's unprofessional, that Jennifer is a professional psychiatrist, professional therapist, and she's like cussing out Tom. But again, Jennifer just went through this this like adrenaline rush of the short university fighting people with supernatural abilities, and then she finds out one of her pupils, someone that she really was looking forward to seeing recover, someone that was basically recovered, that basically made it, died. And it's just so like devastating for Jennifer, because her last interaction with Chloe was extremely positive, and to find out that she died like moments later, it's just heartbreaking. And originally this scene was actually more intense. I actually had lines where Jennifer accuses Tom of like, it was you killed her. And I realized, okay, I understand that Jennifer is going through a lot of grief right now, but even her just saying that is just so extreme. To blame Tom for Chloe's death is like, you are the murderer. So I actually cut that from the scene because I just thought it was a bit ridiculous. Despite her being super fucked up and traumatic and traumatized from Chloe's death, I don't think she'd say that, even with how fucked up she is in the scene.
How are you two doing? Anything fun happen while I was gone?
Well...
We just hung out, that's all.
Right.
We get a brief scene where Aaron talks to Ted and Ava, and they keep it secret. It's just another plot line that'll be addressed later in the show. There's just so much happening right now in this scene that we'll look at that later. But for now, we're just dealing with Chloe's death being mentioned to Jennifer, and just how she deals with that death, and how Tom is just still going through the struggle of re-experiencing that death.
Yeah? Walk away. You're very good at that.
No!
That connection to Ace and just how really messed up he is. So, again, episode 9, very heavy. A lot of themes, a lot of characters feeling ramifications of actions in prior episodes. It's just a beating of an episode.
Fuck. No. Fuck that shit. Just fuck that shit. I'm not a bad person.
The last scene of episode 9 is the scene where Mort tries to kill himself. So Mort relapses on alcohol because he's really screwed up and messed up. And it goes from a scene of like him being in pure denial that things are as bad as they are, and then him realizing that they're really bad, and then he realizes, wow, yeah, I murdered my best friend by accident, I injured Travis's brother. He relapsed on alcohol, and everything just kind of crumbles, and he goes from someone that is in denial to someone that is fully accepting reality and literally is about to kill himself.
Never thought it would come to this. Come on, pull the trigger.
So Mort is a parallel character compared to Chloe. Chloe's a character that just doesn't make it in the end, and Mort is someone who almost followed that same path in this episode.
What are you doing?
What does it look like? I'm trying to kill myself!
Because if Leal did not stop Mort, I 100% believe, as the creator of the show, as someone who knows these characters, that writes these characters, and fully knowing what comes in episode 10, 11, 12, all the way up to episode 15, I fully know for a fact that if Leal was not there to stop Mort, Mort would have killed himself. Mort 100% would have offed himself, because you murder your best friend by accident, like you cause so much destruction to your friend, you ruin their whole life, literally, they die. You relapse on a drug that you're supposed to stop, you know, you're harming your friends, you don't know what to do with your life. It's hard to live with that. And Mort was literally about to kill himself.
I killed my fucking friend! You get that? He's dead! Because of me! I can't live with that!
Unlike Chloe, who doesn't make it, I want Mort to continue to go through trials and errors, and he is on the cusp of like checking out. But because of his friends, someone that Chloe didn't really have, she didn't really have a support group like how Mort has. Mort's able to barely pull through. And once again, we have an amazing scene by Kevin, who voices Mort, where he shoots the ground. And this was originally in the original outline for Series 3 before Jver passed away. But now that Jver dies, it just makes the scene so much heavier, so much more dramatic, so much more heart-wrenching. We see a breaking point. You know, we finally see Mort break. Episode 3, he accidentally shoots Jver. Episode 4 through 8, Mort is just building up stress, build up. Then in episode 9, Jver dies and Mort loses it, has a scene at the hospital, and then almost kills himself at the end of episode 9. So Mort goes through this massive transformation of just destruction, and it's such a great scene, but it's also just so sad because a lot of people don't get to walk away from suicide. A lot of people don't have that support group, and a lot of people don't make it. But thankfully, Mort is not that character this episode, and he is able to pull through, even if it's just barely. That was the Reign Series 3 video documentary series for episode 9, Pulse. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for episode 10 and beyond. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.